Well, everyone, we get to talk about the Samsung Galaxy S22 Plus and compare it against the Samsung Galaxy S21 Plus and see which specific phone you should go and buy, I guess, in 2022. Now, if you have the money and everything, the S22 Plus is definitely the better phone, but there are still some advantages of buying an S21 Plus, which is actually pretty crazy. Now, I will leave both these phones linked in the description. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now, on the, basically the front of both these phones, but particularly the price tag actually, the S21 Plus you can pick up on Amazon for around $600. The S22 Plus you can pick up brand new for $1,000, and that's how much I paid for my phone. And I will tell you, price tag wise, the S21 Plus is definitely a better priced phone. We are also getting some advantages nowadays with the S21 Plus, which is actually really cool, which I'll get into in a second. On the front, the S21 Plus has a 6.7-inch dynamic AMOLED display. It's a 1080p panel, and it's 120Hz, and that panel was beautiful when it came out last year, and it still holds up extremely well. When you have a phone like the Samsung Galaxy S21 Plus, these are beautiful phones, and they have a lot of capability. So with something like that, the S21 Plus does not look dated, and it still looks beautiful. The Samsung Galaxy S22 Plus has a little bit of a smaller 6.6-inch dynamic AMOLED display. It's also 120Hz, and this panel is also really good, 1080p. From my experience from using an S21 Plus to using an S22 Plus, I don't really think there's that big of a difference, but it is kind of cool that, it's still kind of in the same footprint. Unfortunately, it is a smaller display, which I'm not really a fan of. I like having those bigger phones, but it is what it is. There's nothing we can really do about it. A big design change now is that the S22 Plus has a flat side to it. The S21 Plus kind of had like a flat side than a curved side. It's kind of like interesting, but the S22 Plus definitely feels like a thicker phone, which is very interesting. Even though if the S21 Plus was the thicker phone, you're holding the thickest point on the S22 Plus at all times, versus on the S21 Plus, it kind of curves in. I said the same thing about the S20 Plus and even other phones too, and that's pretty much the same case here. Both have USB Type-C ports on the bottom, both lack SD cards, which is also very annoying, but again, there's nothing we can really do about it. And on the back, we have these frosted glass backs on both, and both of them on the back look almost like the exact same phones. There's really not that crazy big of a difference. I heard that the S22 Plus's camera modules are a little bit... I heard that the Samsung Galaxy S22 Plus's camera modules are a little bit bigger. I don't know if that's the case here, but they look pretty good on both. But I definitely would say, in terms of the body standpoint, because the flat sides are now kind of in the moment and they're kind of more trendy now, I think the S22 Plus feels like the more, I guess, up-to-date phone, but the S21 Plus still feels extremely premium, and I would not pick up one over the other because of the body. Like, they both kind of have the same exact thing going on between them. There is a pretty big difference though in terms of software, and it's not between these phones, it's with the previous generations of phones. Nowadays, what Samsung did is that they increased the longevity of these phones from the S21 to the S22 to 4 years of full OS updates and 5 years of security updates. So before this announcement, it's almost like you're picking up a brand new Samsung even if you're buying the Galaxy S21 Plus, which is so crazy to think. You would imagine that Samsung wouldn't even do this because they just refreshed it last year and the year before. So they're on a streak now. I really hope they kind of keep this thing going. And I will tell you, One UI has grown on me. It's still an ongoing process. I've been talking about this for like 6 years now, and I'm a fan of these phones for sure. But the interesting thing is that the Samsung Galaxy S21 Plus is still a very, very good phone, man. I mean, this phone is still going to be lasting for a very long amount of time. So this thing is not going to be outdated anytime soon. So when it comes down to that software experience, that's one of the most important things to keep in mind. You're still going to be getting a really long supportive phone on both. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. And with something like the Samsung Galaxy S22 Plus, it's a very good phone. I mean, that thing's going to be lasting longer than the S21 Plus. Both are great, but they both have their pros and cons with the One UI and other things like that. But they're both very, very good phones in terms of software. Now, flipping them over to the back, they both have kind of the same type of camera setup. So with the Galaxy S21 Plus, we had a 12 megapixel wide angle lens, 64 megapixel telephoto lens, then a 12 megapixel ultra wide sensor. The S22 Plus has a 50 megapixel wide angle lens, 10 megapixel telephoto lens, then a 12 megapixel ultra wide sensor. So kind of the same thing. They both have the same type of camera setups. Now with something like the Samsung Galaxy S21 Plus, I was a fan of this camera, and I still am. Both these phones have the capability of doing 8K on the back, and they both have the capability of doing 4K at 60 on the front, which is so beautiful, and I love having that type of capability. And one of the most important things about these phones is the features within them. From what I can tell, they both pretty much have the same exact features inside of them, at least the same exact features I would typically use on an everyday basis. But one thing Samsung has mentioned, and something I always state, is that for a lot of these social media applications, they don't don't really take use of the full camera that these phones have. The camera applications, the stock camera applications, that comes with Samsung's, they're very great. They showcase pretty much everything what these phones have going for them. But when you actually take those cameras and you put them into an app like Snapchat or TikTok or Instagram, they don't really take up that full camera, experience that you would expect. And sometimes it's grainy, sometimes it's laggy, sometimes it's choppy. Interestingly enough, Samsung's actually teamed up with a lot of these other social media applications, and they actually are giving you a better experience on your Samsung phone. Now, I will test this out thoroughly and let you guys know even on my second channel of how this experience is. But from what this is, that is amazing, and I love having that. That was one of the biggest problems before, and it looks like that's kind of been fixed. But to be honest, if you're going from an S21 Plus to an S22 Plus, you're probably not going to find that big of a difference in terms of the camera setup. I will make like a full-on camera experience today, but I will tell you, I will have a full-on camera experience a little bit later in the next couple of days, but I will tell you, the S22 Plus is a very good camera for sure, and so is the S21 Plus. Now, in terms of performance, there's a little bit of a difference here. The Samsung Galaxy S21 Plus had that Qualcomm Snapdragon 888 chipset inside, with 8GB of RAM on both the models that it came out with. With the S22 Plus, we had that Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chipset, so generation 1 of that new 8th generation chipset, whatever they're going to call it. And we had the same amount of RAM on both models, so 8GB of RAM on the base model and the top tier model. And I will tell you, I honestly cannot tell that big of a difference between the S22 series and the S21 series in terms of performance. They are almost identically the same thing. I wish there was a bigger difference between them, but I also kind of noticed the same thing between the S20 and the S21. So maybe it takes a little bit of time for these phones to kind of mature, but as of right now, they are both, they're very fast phones. They're very fast. They get you from point A to point B extremely fast. There were some rumors stating that the iPhone 13 was faster than the S22 series. From my test, I couldn't really tell. I'll go ahead and test it thoroughly a little bit later, but from what I could tell, the S22 Plus is a very, very fast phone. However, I said the same thing about the Samsung Galaxy S21 Plus. Both of these things can really handle everything you're going to throw at it, and I can't really think of a reason why I would go from an S21 Plus to an S22 Plus just in terms of performance. They have the same amount of storage and RAM components within them, so there really isn't that big of a difference there either. And from what I can tell, they're both great phones. I'm sure they have everything going for them, but I just couldn't really tell that big of a difference between any of my S21 series and my S22 series. I think when I went back to my S20 series, there's probably going to be more of a difference, but if it's you and you're trying to find the best performing one, obviously the S22 Plus is going to be the better one, but there's very little difference in my opinion. They're both going to give you around the same experience. So that pretty much covers it up there. In terms of battery life, this was honestly kind of the weirder thing. The S22 Plus has a 300 milliamp hour less battery than the S21 Plus, with a 4800 milliamp hour battery on the S21 Plus, 4500 milliamp hour battery on the S22 Plus, and it's weird that we're on this downward trajectory. I hate that so much. It's one of the most annoying things ever, and I hope Samsung doesn't keep going in this direction. I'm just going to side that the S22 Plus probably has a little bit worse battery life than the S21 Plus if you're buying them brand new. They both have wireless charging and reverse wireless charging, but it is very, very strange that something like this, the downward decrease in battery size is very, very weird, and I'm not a fan of that at all. So to kind of sum up this video, what I will tell you is that I definitely do think the Samsung Galaxy S21 Plus is the better value per dollar. I think that phone has a lot more going for it when it comes down to it. I think the Galaxy S22 Plus is an amazing phone. It's almost perfect, but it is a lot more expensive than the S21 Plus, at least in the used market compared to the brand new one. And if you give it a couple months, the S22 Plus is going to go down in value a lot. But I don't know, I feel like Samsung didn't really do that crazy good of a job here. I like the flat sides, I like the better camera setup, how they teamed up with other social media applications. I like some things like that, but it just doesn't really seem like if you gave me both phones and I didn't really know that much about phones, I would kind of think they were probably the same phone, to be honest. So in terms of that covers it. If you guys have any other questions or want to pick these phones up like I mentioned, links are down in the description. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.